Good morning everyone, welcome to another Sunday session of Live at the Waterhole. It's myself, Kenneth Gamble. I'll be your guide for the session. We're starting off here at El Doño with two elephant bulls, one truly magnificent specimen. I'm a bit blown back, he's really got some impressive ivory there. The show is live and interactive, so please feel free to send through your questions and comments. I'll do my best to answer them, and sit back and enjoy the rest of the show. I see we've also got quite a few superb starlings fluttering about. Very beautiful birds. And looks like a bit of posturing taking place there. It looks like that bull was just reminding the younger fella he is big and important. He is looking quite alert there, raising his head, so I don't know if he's seen something or what's gotten his attention. It might be another elephant bull approaching. Feels like it's been a while since I've been at El Doño. I haven't seen too much action here the last while. But obviously as we go into the dry months of the year, the action always increases around El Doño. And that makes sense for that big bull's reaction. There was another elephant bull walking in. Also quite a large specimen. Not as impressive, but still quite a big guy. Hi there Denny, good to have you on the show. It's always one of my favourite times on a Sunday, if I'm not busy myself exploring in the bush or bird watching. I see Kim Faustino was saying 1 ton was here last week. That is quite a nice treat. I have not seen him in many moons, but of course if you think how big some of these elephant bulls home ranges are, right time, right place. But at least I have been privileged to have him once or twice on the show. Sounds like we have a bee or top of fly maybe quite close to the camera's microphone there. Almost sounds like a mosquito buzzing around nearby. Amazing how sensitive some of these microphones are. Of course it adds a awesome immersive feel to all the waterholes. Just love hearing all those bushveld sounds. I think it was when I used to live in the city, you in a way either idolize silence or peace and quiet, but now that I live in the bush, when I travel for work, etc., and I stay in a place that's very quiet, I'll actually even put African nighttime sounds on just to give myself a bit of soundscape. I truly do enjoy hearing the sounds of the bush. All these elephant bulls look very peaceful and happy. It's always wonderful just watching them take it easy. Quite a stark contrast to their cousins in Tembe, who often get very splashy and normally having huge mud baths, but obviously quite a different setup. Much smaller pan here, and obviously a drier, more arid region. compared to Tembe's habitat. Always love watching how a big elephant bull will rest his trunk on his tusks. Obviously, it's a good benefit to have if you can relax those muscles a bit. No, sorry, that was someone else. Picasso, you'd like to know if elephants are sensitive to brackish water. So they can tolerate brackish or mineral-rich water. I think it obviously, and it goes the same for any living organism. You, in a way, start to adapt to the conditions that you're exposed to. I've been camping in a few places near the Okavango Delta where they say the water's fine, the people in the area drink it, but maybe for someone coming from overseas or from quite far away, it would be quite sorry, we're just going to quickly switch over to Victoria Falls. We've got some action going on there, I don't want to miss it. I'll carry on with my discussion now. Very exciting. There's a nice bit of action for us. But yeah, let me just finish off what I was saying first. So yeah, in locally adapted, people might not feel it as much, but if you're not used to it, it might be quite a change. So in that way, it'd be very similar for elephants. I think elephants that are adapted to certain water conditions may handle it better compared to other ones. But that being said, yeah, well, we've seen how elephants are very picky about where they drink. They'll always try to drink from the source where it's a bit fresher. So they can be very picky on which water source they drink. They will obviously always make do. So I guess it's just a balance. They know how to handle themselves. But yeah, obviously too much of a very mineral-rich or salty water will inevitably be bad for their system or body. Mission Control is mentioning to me that this buffalo calf was caught yesterday by, I assume, this crocodile. Quite cool to have witnessed that. I'm quite amazed there's still, well, we can't really see how much is left, but I'm surprised there is, if anything, left. And that being said, it's also it's not a small crocodile. Obviously a bit of scale might be off with the camera, because this is also a buffalo calf, but I don't know, I would say this is a relatively sizable crocodile. I wonder if we'll be fortunate enough to see a bit of a death roll like move here. I'm sure this crocodile would more than likely look at doing something like that. That or one of those very strong head shakes to try break off a piece of meat. I think probably, I'm going to say more than likely a bit of a head shake, since it's a buffalo calf, so the carcass isn't really anchored. But that being said, even if the carcass isn't anchored, if it spins quick enough, it will still break off enough meat for it to swallow in its death roll. It's always amazing the interesting things that we often pick up at the waterhole. I feel like it's always a constant reminder and lesson how the surprises are just lurking or waiting for us to see them, and you just have to be patient. I don't know if this crocodile's maybe not as hungry as it should be. It seems to kind of be playing with its food in a way, or not really going at this with gusto. But then again, they haven't got the sharpest of teeth, so it might take a bit of maneuvering to get some food. But yeah, crocodiles have also been known for caching food items. They are not opposed to eating rancid meat. It doesn't bother them at all. So something like this could feed them for a couple days. It's actually just a matter of how long it actually lasts. Mercedes-Benz, you were saying it was near end of drive. Sad but incredible to witness. I've never seen a crocodile catch something, but or physically myself. I've seen footage, but yeah, it's not the. I don't think it's ever pleasant seeing a predator kill an animal, but I think, especially the way crocodiles do it by drowning their prey, it's not the most pleasant activity to witness. But at the end of the day, it is the way that nature works. There's no feelings, unfortunately. It's all very clinical and harsh sometimes. So 50, you were saying you reckon that the croc is at least over 12 feet long. I'm not great with using feet. I've always used meters all my life, but I do have a rough calculation always in my head. I know they speak of the biggest crocs are always about 20 foot, which is about 6 meters. I always use that as my frame of reference. So 12 feet would give us roughly about 3 meters. I do reckon this crocodile's in that region, just judging by its head. Problem is, this buffalo calf doesn't give you a great point of reference on scale, because I'm not totally aware how big this calf is, but I do think it is close in the 12 foot region. I'm maybe leaning to it being a bit smaller than that, but yeah, definitely a mature crocodile, to say the least. Okay, well, Mr. Crocodile's messing around a bit. We're going to head over to El Dornio. Sounds like the elephants are having a bit of a wrestling match. Seems like we just missed it. I saw some of the dust settling. Of course, probably just a bit of dominance being asserted, and a reminder who's got prime real estate of the water inlet here. Seems like calm has returned to the waterhole. Well, there was 4, now there's 2. Everything's settled in, the youngsters have left. Just the older gentleman here at the waterhole now. Of course, the one on the left is focusing on that fresh water coming out there into the pan or the waterhole. Seems like a bit of sizing up going on there. These are still, or these are 2 very big elephant bulls in the prime of their life. think this is quite a good example of having bigger tusks doesn't necessarily always mean you are the bigger or stronger elephant. I'm of the opinion this bull also wants to drink, but it appears that he is waiting for his turn, and that's purely just down to dominance at the end of the day. That or he's actually just listening and taking it easy, but he kind of seems to be waiting around. At least a very calm and peaceful scene. I always love this low angle that one has at the Aldornia waterhole. I don't know, that eye level really just brings across the size and scale of things a bit more. The elephants do seem very big and large in front of you. With your traditional cameras that tend to be up, you generally looking down, so it does change your perspective. Lots of small things like that can really change the atmosphere of the shot.
When nature calls, Maui is the only answer. Satisfy your wanderlust and take to the open road in one of our fully equipped motorhomes. Boasting a fridge, gas stovetop, AC and bathroom, our motorhomes are comfortable and spacious, making any self-drive adventure in the Kruger or garden route memorable. Whether you travel alone, as a couple or the whole family, Maui has a motorhome for you. Maui, home where you roam.
The Masai Mara in February 2027 with your favorite Wild Earth guides. This is an extraordinary safari opportunity. You'll stay at the exclusive Kobe Mara, a private villa in the action-packed Northern Mara. Your hosts for this fun-filled safari are David Gigi Gitu, Cedric Dold, and me, James Henry.
Would you like to know what an elephant's favorite food is? You could ask me questions like that in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive from the heart of Africa. Over here. Watch Safari Live and connect with nature.
When adventure calls, answer with Brits. Take on Southern Africa's most breathtaking landscapes from behind the wheel of a fully equipped 4x4 or SUV. From tents and bedding to a fridge and full kitchen gear, everything you need is already on board. And with 24-hour roadside assistance, you're free to go further and explore with confidence. Open roads, total freedom, no limits, just the journey ahead. Brits, equipped for adventure.
What's also quite interesting is when they're in must, they near the glands, it's like it swells up, it becomes quite swollen and rounded, it looks like a soccer ball. But yeah, the most go-to method for me is if the legs are wet and there's a faint dribbling, then you're in business. I see these two gentlemen are quite peaceful. We're gonna head over to Fig Tree Crossing in the Mara. Got some hippo action. I'm sure they'll keep us busy. I believe I may have jinxed us. These hippos are anything but busy. They are having a very peaceful Sunday. They all look very cozy in the sun. It must be quite pleasant to spend your Sunday just lounging around like that. I can't imagine it's too comfortable lying on top of each other like that, but then again, what do I know? I'm not a hippo. You see, the oxpeckers are really having quite a good time, but that's also another reason why the hippos could be basking like this essentially. They feel their parasite load is maybe a bit high. They expose themselves and allow the oxpeckers to do their business. Of course, there are also fish in the water that are also known sometimes to feed off ticks, etc. Terrapins as well. I don't think hippos normally have the largest tick load though, considering how much time they spend submerged in water. Ticks can also only hold their breath for so long, I think. But on top of that, if one looks at their behavior, it's only really at night that they go out to graze. So their exposure to ticks is probably a whole lot less compared to a lot of other large land mammals. But that being said, it doesn't take much to, well, it's not just ticks, but yeah, other skin parasites like fleas, etc. But yeah, the oxpeckers will be feeding on ticks, fleas, blood, mucus. So, actually quite a intricate system if one thinks about it. It's not always as necessarily clinical or simple as it appears or on the surface. It looks like quite a few of the oxpeckers have rapidly disappeared. I must say, some of these birds are flying a bit strangely to me. They look or resemble starlings a little bit, but I'm fairly certain it's oxpeckers, just a bit hard with the distance, but I wouldn't imagine seeing starlings performing a similar role to oxpeckers. I think they would definitely take the opportunity to feed on ticks, but I don't think they would necessarily go land on a pod of hippos. It does take a bit of specialization in which the oxpeckers are well versed with their feet or claws and their tails that they use for balance and perching. I see someone caught a bit of a splash there. You can see the contrast in the skin quite a bit, shows you how long they've actually been lying outside of the water. I imagine this is the same hippopod I saw last week Sunday at Live at the Waterhole. It's actually quite a good opportunity to try count them now that they're all sitting still, but it's kind of like looking at a puzzle. We'll try count them when I get a moment. I think I count roughly about 23, give or take. I'm not sure if anyone else has counted them. It's quite easy on the left hand side, but as you move a bit more to the right hand side, there's quite a conglomeration of bodies and snouts. But yeah, let us know in the comments what you or how many hippos you think there are. Quite a big pod nonetheless. I mean, 23 animals, give or take. That's no small volume of hippos. Emma, you'd like to know if hippos survive serious injuries from fights with other hippos. Oh goodness, sorry, I just saw the camera move a bit, there's even more hippos. So I'm going to safely say there's at least, I'll pump my number up another 10 or 15, I think there's about 40 hippos here. But yeah, if they can survive serious injuries from fights with other hippos, I think it's very tough to say, because a serious injury implies it's probably not going to end well. But yeah, I think they are quite well adapted. I think sometimes they can survive quite mean injuries, or what maybe appears to us very serious. They can survive it. We often see mature hippo bulls full of scars and scar tissue and wounds that are inflicted by those big canine teeth. So it does say to me they can survive it. I don't know if it's necessarily always a serious injury for them to survive it. Obviously that thick skin is quite tough, or it's thick and tough, and goes a long way in helping. And in a way, spending so much time on the water, the wounds technically stay cleaner and cooler. They're not exposed to heat and stuff like that. Also, a lot of the mucus that the substance they secrete from their skin is known to have antibacterial properties. So I think that goes a long way in healing it. Same with the oxpeckers, they might assist. But that being said, there's a lot of pathogens and microorganisms in the water they're in. I think maybe a river's a bit better than necessarily a stagnant pan. But yeah, if infection sets in, I think that's normally the end of it for them, and that's probably what kills a lot of hippos, is those wounds get infected, and then it's a downhill slope from there. Also, if they lose too much blood from the injury, or it impacts their feeding anyway, that's also going to kind of put the nails on the coffin there. But yeah, like most animals, and I think hippos especially, they are incredibly tough. I think they can handle or get through a lot, but yeah. Caleb, you'd like to know, why do hippos prefer shallow water where they can still touch the bottom? Caleb, the answer is quite simple. It's because they don't swim. They always run or walk on the surface of the water. It's not to say that they don't really swim, but yeah, they always sit somewhere where they can pop their heads out, and it's if they can stand on their back feet or all four of their feet. But that's the main reason. They're not going to go to a deep part of the river where they can't be in constant contact with the riverbed, because they'll probably get washed a bit away with the current, etc. Hence why they prefer to stand. See, we've got quite a few answers coming in. Initially 25 or 30. Thomas said 25. LEPR said about 30. So I think we're all on the same wavelength. And then the camera zoomed out. I see Mr. Elemental went from 29 now to 42. I think that region around 40 is quite a bit more accurate. But it's very amazing that there's so many hippos here. I'm personally not used to seeing such big pods of hippos. There are substantial hippo populations in the region I stay, or the Kruger itself, but I'm not used to seeing such large pods or congregations. Of course, as winter sets in, it's more normal to see pod sizes grow. But yeah, I feel like I've never really spent time with such a large group of hippos. Of course, here in the Masai Mara, it's probably very good habitat. With good grazing, and obviously the rivers are not too deep, so all in all quite good. But anyway, we're going to leave our lazy hippos. I'll see a few of them are getting boisterous, but we're going to head over to Tau for a bit. Definitely always an idyllic day at Tau. I see we have a few zebras. We have, initially I thought it was one crocodile. It appears to be two, being very lazy, looking like colloquial flat dogs, as I like to refer to them at times. Of course, a peaceful elephant quenching its thirst. I also think there's some baboons at the back there. Yeah, there's definitely some baboons. But quite a lot going on here at Tau. It's actually very rare for it to be, if ever, really quiet at Tau. Even then, I feel like there's always quite a good example of this elephant bull resting his trunk on his tusks here. Actually a bit of an example that you don't necessarily need big tusks to do it. Small ones also get the job done. Bit of a head flap there. I don't know who he was trying to show off to, or he just wanted to shake some dust loose. It's always quite intimidating when an elephant bull does that to you when you are nearby them in a vehicle, or dare I say on foot. They generally do that to assert their size and dominance. A few plucky impala strolling or jumping past. Don't know what spooked them. I don't know why, but this elephant bull's spine looks quite invisible in a way compared to some of the other elephants we've seen, or it's maybe just a bit of bias from my side. So it appears like that, maybe just the angle we've seen him walk in. You would expect them to be in still relatively good condition this time of year as the dry season sets in southern Africa, and there has been incredibly good rain, so there is enough food. But yeah, I'm not sure. His spine and hips maybe look like they're protruding a little bit to me. Might just be feeling the pinch of winter. Here comes another bull, but he also looks quite similar, so maybe I'm imagining things that aren't necessarily true. So I always have to be so careful with blanket statements. There's a very specific word for it. I think it's statistical bias, but it's not really relevant in this situation. But always have to look at the bigger picture. One or two are not necessarily indicative of the whole situation. I suppose you were asking if I've ever seen an elephant charging at zebras before. Personally, not that I can really think of. Maybe a little bit of Etosha, but I don't think it was actually zebras when I was there. And I don't mean live at the waterhole, but just in my own personal capacity. But it is very interesting. It's often something we see quite a bit of at Aldonio. I think that is a excuse me, has quite a lot to do with the size of that waterhole. So sorry to clear my cough there, but so I think it depends a lot on the size of the water, the availability. I think that's what we see a lot at Aldonio, maybe not at other locations so much. Anyway, we are going to leave Taal for a little bit. There's quite a few elephants along the Olifants River. I'm going to go watch that action for a little bit. We'll probably come back here a bit later. Always precious to see these little elephant calves. Especially, I don't know, everything they do is just a bit funnier, so I'm sure they'll get up to some antics with the sand and the riverbanks here. Everyone else looks quite relaxed, feeding on quite a few green and lush plants. And obviously there's been quite a bit of substantial herbaceous growth since the floods. A lot of different seeds deposited, and was sandbanks or riverbanks have been exposed to quite a bit of water, so it would have supported quite a bit of plant growth. I'm not sure specifically what they're feeding on. It probably is some type of, maybe not an invasive plant, but a weedy plant, or it's been washed down with the rivers. Technically could be considered an invader, but I don't think a very bad one. But in this case, at least the elephants are feeding on it. But that also has a whole host of knock-on problems, because they can spread the seeds like that. But yeah, if something else will eat it again, then it won't spread. Your invasive plants tend to spread and take over when native herbivores or insects don't feed on it, and in that way it's not controlled, and then it takes over completely. Always very peaceful watching the elephants on the riverbank. The Elephants River webcam is quite a peaceful one to watch. Only problem with the river, there's not always necessarily action, so you have to be a bit patient, but normally when something comes along, it's normally worth it. It's quite a big breeding herd, this. It's probably also a bit late to count now, but I mean, yeah, it's quite a sizable group of elephants. Everyone taking it very easy. I'm not sure if they've necessarily been to drink. None of them really seem to be covered in water, so I don't think they've been splashing around. They definitely might have crossed the river, but everyone looks quite relaxed. They're not really going anywhere anytime soon in the typical feeding movement, or they're quite spaced out and taking it easy. You can see that cow on the left has overextended herself a bit. She was starting to slide down the sandbank. I don't think she wants to go down there, not yet anyway. It's always amazing to see how they're able to negotiate these steep riverbanks. We always assume that such a large animal wouldn't be able to, or they can't really navigate it, but they are incredibly flexible and nimble or agile animals when they want to be. Melissa, you'd like to know which nature reserve this camera is. So it's a group of properties. It's quite a bit, well, much more north, if everyone's familiar with where Djuma or Sabi Sands is. So it's north of the town of Hoedspruit, probably 20-30 kilometers in a straight line, or it's a 20-30 minute drive. It operates under the name of the Balule Game Reserve or Private Nature Reserve. But yeah, there's quite a few properties. There's Olifants North, Olifants West, so those are two separate game reserves. There's Griekie, there's Balule itself, but you know, Balule operates, it's kind of the placeholder for the whole game reserve essentially. So it is a conglomerate or big grouping. I'm not entirely sure where specifically this camera is on the river. I'm trying to think. I think I knew the lodge, but it's escaping me now. Also, the vegetation or the habitat along the Olifants River is quite synonymous with most of it. So yeah, it's a bit tough to see just off looks. I've been to a few properties probably more downstream, but yeah, it looks almost identical to that, but I'm not entirely specifically sure. Catherine, you were saying one pulled out a little tree bush. Yeah, it's frightening how strong they are. Of course, I didn't specifically see which tree bush it was, but elephants are actually just crazy strong. It's I think sometimes we forget as humans how much strength they truly possess. I mean, often for us to pull out plants or weeds, etc., there's special tools we have to use to leverage them out and all those things, and an elephant can just do that with its trunk. It's truly amazing. And I mean, especially when it comes to pulling something out with the roots and all, it takes quite a bit of force to break the hold that the roots have on the soil.
When nature calls, Maui is the only answer. Satisfy your wanderlust and take to the open road in one of our fully equipped motorhomes. Boasting a fridge, gas stovetop, AC and bathroom, our motorhomes are comfortable and spacious, making any self-drive adventure in the Kruger or garden route memorable. Whether you travel alone, as a couple or the whole family, Maui has a motorhome for you. Maui, home where you roam.
Some tours are watched, others are lived. This is England's tour of South Africa, December to January, cricket at its most iconic. And when the final ball is bowled, your journey is only just beginning. Travel into the wild, all-inclusive, seamless, unforgettable. Cricket and Safari by Wild Earth Travel. This isn't just a tour, it's South Africa, done properly.
When adventure calls, answer with Brits. Take on Southern Africa's most breathtaking landscapes from behind the wheel of a fully equipped 4x4 or SUV. From tents and bedding to a fridge and full kitchen gear, everything you need is already on board. And with 24-hour roadside assistance, you're free to go further and explore with confidence. Open roads, total freedom, no limits, just the journey ahead. Brits, equipped for adventure.
Footage of its last few moments before it plunged into the river. I think the bank was washed away a bit, and that unfortunately took the camera out. Or it was a tree, but yeah, truly frightening to think how high the water was here. You can even see in the riverbed all the exposed stones, etc. So yeah, crazy times. A very placid elephant calf. I think he's making the most of a nice cool spot there. Really caking himself in some sand. bum in the air there, quite entertaining. He's decided he's going to go down face first. He's got to be careful, he might continue sliding down. And he's having a very fun Sunday. I see we have a pied wagtail that's also come to make the most of the elephant stirring up the sand and vegetation. Try to pick up any insects that have maybe been exposed. Of course, this young elephant is not concerned with such things. He's just looking to play around and slide around in the sand. I must say I can relate. I remember as a child we also used to slide and roll around on the side of a sandy bank. It's quite an enjoyable activity. Looks like he's getting a bit more serious now. He's done playing. Excuse me everyone, bit of a flu season that I've been recovering from. But I wanted to say you can really see it now on the riverbed here, how it's being scoured of quite a bit of sand and all these rocks are sticking out. And to think the river is not even actually flowing on that side, but yeah, its course has been changed quite heavily. Well, there we go, we can see a bit more of the river flowing. I think this is quite a different location, and I must say it actually shocked me. I haven't really looked at or seen any of the Olifant's cameras since the floods, but I don't recall in the past any of these pylons or power lines. So obviously it's moved quite drastically or dramatically compared to its prior location. It could also be that a lot has just really changed and it's hard to match it up to what we were used to. But I mean, all that flood debris and stuff we can see, it can really tell how this river has changed itself. I know I've seen during the flood I saw a lot of footage, but it was truly frightening how many large big trees were washed away along the Olifants River. Truly frightening. Or trees that were starting to become mature and large trees that recovered from the previous floods about 10-20 years ago, and it just kind of resets it. It's quite tough because a lot of big birds of prey, etc., rely quite extensively on them for nesting, and obviously when these trees are taken out, then unfortunately it has a negative impact on them. We're not too far off where we used to be. I think the camera was always quite close to the lodge, so we've actually only really slightly changed position a bit. I do recognize those electricity pylons in the background. They run through the town of Hoedspruit, so not too far at all, but I must say it looks actually like the same spot that we were used to in the past. Certainly looks a little different. As the famous saying goes, same but different. Quite scary to see all that flood debris there. I must say it almost looks like the identical spot. I don't think it's changed too much. I think what has changed quite a bit is some big trees are missing, and I think that's what's changed this appearance quite a bit. It's quite cool. You can actually, I heard on the microphone now, you can actually hear branches and trees snapping from the elephants. I must say thank you to the zoomies for giving us this intricate view of the river. I think it really paints a picture of how much it's changed since the floods. It's actually I don't know, amazing or scary that a landscape like that can change so much from one major event. Actually, I must go back on a few old live streams or pictures and try to see if I can kind of compare what trees have disappeared. But yeah, anyway. So we've got some vultures also circling there in the distance. Very much an idyllic day along the Olifants River. Such a peaceful setting to just sit back and enjoy. Also heard the call of a cardinal woodpecker there. Brings back so many good memories for myself. I spent a couple times along the Olifants River. Just for everyone who's curious, and also the dedicated viewers of the show, obviously the camera is still in the same spot. The zoomies have confirmed that it's actually just purely from the major change in the landscape why it looks quite starkly different, and also confirming that it is on Balule Game Reserve or Private Nature Reserve, whichever name you prefer more. But just to answer to some of those questions. Been quite a nice peaceful scene for the afternoon. We're going to leave these elephants and head back to Old Dornier. There's some giraffes waiting for us. Still looks like these two elephant bulls are here quenching their thirst, not planning on leaving anytime soon. Wouldn't be surprised if they stayed here for the rest of the show. And giraffe trying to sneak in a drink. I know they're always quite careful with the elephants. Also, of course, there are plenty of lions in the vicinity. It really is in the giraffe's best interest to be careful here. See, our giraffe is looking quite cautious, but we're just going to head over to Elephant Pan there for a bit of a surprise. The surprise was more elephants at Elephant Pan. It's always my lame joke, but it's always quite ironic. That's normally what we have in copious amounts here at Elephant Pan. I must say, it's looking incredibly full. I can't remember when last I was at Elephant Pan on the show. I think it was maybe December or January, but even then it was already full, and I know Botswana has had massive amounts of rain this year, so I'm not surprised that this pan is as full as it is. I mean, the flooding was so bad that actually some game reserves in Botswana were actually closed to the public for a bit due to safety concerns, and I don't think I've ever really heard of parts of Botswana really being closed. It's always been something that you've had to navigate. That's part of visiting the wilderness there. But yeah, then again, you tend to know about what you're more involved in, so maybe I was a bit younger, it never really came across. But yeah, publicly this year they literally stopped access for a few weeks. That's how bad the floods were. Very interesting. Gosh, there's quite a few elephants here. It's almost 180 degrees worth of elephants in every direction. Looking quite happy. Of course, quite normal in this time of year as the bush dries out. Although I think there is, I think there is quite a bit of water out there. If Elephant Pan is this full, I'm sure there's plenty of pans out in these areas that are full to the brim with water. It'll probably remain like that for a while. Of course, Botswana does have quite a sizable elephant population, so it's also quite normal to see elephants at pans at this time of day. Roz, you were mentioning it's always such interesting to see the animal dynamics at El Doño. It is truly interesting. Whenever you get the opportunity to really pay attention to it at a waterhole, it's quite striking. I remember once on a work trip I stayed at a property that had a watering hole in front of it, and elephants would come every day, and it was very interesting to see how they interacted with themselves but also the other animals. And of course it was a dry time of year, so water was quite popular. But it's quite interesting when you take note of it. It's not as simple or straightforward as one seems. LEPR, and lots of rain all over in southern Africa. It's been incredible to see. It certainly has. I think what's also been amazing is how much late rain there was. I think we'd already had a very good wet season to begin with, and I think when we all thought it was tapering off or it was done, even more rain came. So a very, very good rainy season. Unfortunately, it's resulted in flood damage throughout quite a few areas. Even the Western and the Eastern Cape have recently had very bad flood damage. I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was very scary to see that. Obviously the Kruger regions, we saw massive floods, so it's unfortunately that's the add-on of very good rain. It eventually gets to a point where it starts to cause damage, but we are thankful for it. It's really been a privilege to see how green everything has become. Of course now it's drying out as we go into winter, but very cool nonetheless.
Esattamente, quello. Porca miseria, anche io zero, non so proprio modo di trovarlo perché ero talmente incazzato che l'ho cancellato dalla rubrica. Io ce l'avevo il numero, capito? Francesca, quanto era? Capito? Sì. Quindi è imbattibile, non si sa come fa, non si sa, è pazzesco, guarda comunque, sì.
And EPR, you were saying you've seen so many beautiful waterfalls on a show you've been watching daily, and it's quite amazing. It truly is. I remember just after that week of floods and heavy rain in the Kruger region, it was truly magnificent to see the on the escarpment of the mountain range, all the small waterfalls that had popped up. Obviously they don't flow regularly, but I think just from where we stay I could see 4 or 5 different ones, and it was quite cool. It didn't last long, it lasted merely a few days, but still something very magnificent to see. But that's just the way it goes. You have to enjoy both sides of it. It's the same in a drought. I think a drought is never very pleasant to go through or watch. Of course, your game viewing is exceptional. It's a good time for hyenas and leopards and lions and all the predators because there's abundant food, but unfortunately the herbivores take quite a beating, and even the habitat, the trees and the plants, they also start to look quite sorry. So it's just one of those cycles. I say that though without downplaying climate change. Of course, climate change is very much a real driver of these massive weather events that we're seeing, and it's quite scary. There was a lot of 100-year flood marks that were exceeded. I mean, that's quite intense, but wet and dry times are part of the cycle. It's just a bit scary when we see it in the extremities of those systems or scales. So it's quite nice being elephant pan again. I always enjoy this large scale landscape view we get with the camera, especially the elephants in the background and the big mopani trees. It gives you a nice bit of depth to the image. Just truly stunning. Really makes me want to pack up all my gear, get my tent ready and go off on a wild adventure to the wilderness of Botswana. And then of course sit under a tree with a good book and watch the world go by. Spaz, so you'd like to know how climate change affects the elephants in places like Botswana. So, yeah, climate change is becoming a real challenge. I think even before these floods, was it 2 or 3 years ago, there was a short El Nino event, and that already wreaked havoc. But even prior to 2020, there was already droughts and El Ninos, and it was already apparent what the issues were. But anyway, so yeah, it's quite a big issue for places like Botswana, especially with the very large elephant population, which is a conservation success story, but it does come with other challenges when we look at certain dedicated places for conservation. It's tough when you condense a large population like that into one area and not over the entire country, and that's a whole different topic because then you touch on habitat suitability, etc. But yeah, this hotter temperatures and more unpredictable rainfall, that's what's affecting water availability, vegetation and movement patterns. So that all starts to affect the elephants. So during your longer dry periods, the elephants have to travel further between, and it's not just elephants, it's also a lot of other animals like buffaloes and zebras and wildebeest, but they have to travel a lot further between food and water, which starts to increase stress on the animals and the landscape, and this animal's working harder and harder to maintain itself as the food runs out near the water sources, so its condition deteriorates. And inadvertently, unfortunately, with the elephants, you start to get heavier pressure on trees and vegetation around water sources because they become more concentrated, and if they can get some food near water, unfortunately the trees in the area are going to bear the brunt of that. So it also starts to increase conflict with people in rural areas as elephants, start to move into the farming areas and after food or water sources. So yeah, those are just some of it. It's quite it's a very interesting and massive topic, but yeah, it's quite interesting. Elephants are adaptable, but yeah, even eventually then giants start to feel the pressure when water and seasons become a bit different. We are just going to go to Meno Ekwena also for some more elephant action. I'm really enjoying hopping between all the webcams today. It's quite pleasant and nice visiting all the spots again. quite nice to have this early action today. Also quite nice just to see so much water. I think back to last year's dry season where it was so much more drier and harsh. And it's just truly wonderful to, although the vegetation is changing as it goes into winter, as temperatures plummet and everything finishes its growth cycle, it's still very nice just to see water everywhere. I think what I find the most striking is, and it's not like it's a strange occurrence, but the Boteti River is known to flow. It just doesn't flow very often, and yeah, it's just weird seeing so much water here. It's quite interesting. Anyway, since that elephant gave us the slip, we're going to head over to Tau again and see what's going on there. Quite a bit of a interesting fight taking place here. Normally you see it between two elephant bulls, and there's a third contender, a bit of a Mexican standoff, as they say. Don't think it's a very serious fight, maybe just a bit of dominance display, or I don't think these are young bulls. I don't think they're playing too much, but maybe just re-establishing who's in charge.
When nature calls, Maui is the only answer. Satisfy your wanderlust and take to the open road in one of our fully equipped motorhomes. Boasting a fridge, gas stovetop, AC and bathroom, our motorhomes are comfortable and spacious, making any self-drive adventure in the Kruger or garden route memorable. Whether you travel alone, as a couple or the whole family, Maui has a motorhome for you. Maui, home where you roam.
Even a hyena coming into the action as well now. Oh my word! She's stalking the hyena now. Leopard, hyena, lion, all together in one shot. Oh! Whoa! This is action-packed.
Would you like to know what an elephant's favorite food is? You could ask me questions like that in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive from the heart of Africa. Over here. Watch Safari Live and connect with nature.
When adventure calls, answer with Brits. Take on Southern Africa's most breathtaking landscapes from behind the wheel of a fully equipped 4x4 or SUV. From tents and bedding to a fridge and full kitchen gear, everything you need is already on board. And with 24-hour roadside assistance, you're free to go further and explore with confidence. Open roads, total freedom, no limits, just the journey ahead. Brits, equipped for adventure.
Relatively closely related, but like just a big massive lawnmower going to town there, cropping and swallowing. And obviously the egret's also waiting for its opportunity to grab any insects that are flushed in the process. There's even a few jacanas hitching a ride there, also making the most of any insects flushed by the hippo. Obviously this big floating mat of vegetation is perfect for them, but yeah, it's great having a large herbivore to come through and disturb all the insects that you're hunting for. Makes it quite easy. Oliver, you'd like to know if hippos allow birds and fish to clean parasites from their skin. They most certainly do. Obviously these jacanas that we're seeing, that's not what they do. Cattle egrets, they can sometimes, but I don't think they do it with hippos. I think it's more in agricultural settings, etc. with cattle. But they will eat any parasites in the vicinity. But yeah, your oxpeckers will regularly hitch a ride on a hippo and clean their skin of parasites, etc. And then again, also in the water, there's quite a few fish that feed on dead skin or parasites in the water. A lot of tilapia. I don't know if I think there's a few catfish that also do. It's been documented a couple times in some nature documentaries. And then also, of course, the fish also feed on any dung that's dropped in the water by the hippos. I see these African jacanas having a good time on the hippo. It seems like a bit of a wild ride, but there's really a lot of them. Can't believe this hippo is also still just going at it, chomping and chomping away. It's quite entertaining watching these jacanas, and now the egret's also on the hippo, but how they're just hitching a ride as he moves around and walks around. Obviously they're all there for the insects that are getting disturbed, but still quite a comical situation. See Eddie PR coined a good saying there. The hippo taxi is being well used by all the different birds. I mean the egret's also quite well adapted to moving in vegetation like this. But yeah, it's not about working hard, it's about working smart. So if you can hitch a ride, why not? Especially when you can hop on and off as it suits you. You don't have to wait for the transport to stop. Jamie, you'd like to know what birds would a hippo not allow on its back? I'll start off by maybe saying the obvious, probably an eagle, which I think they'd also not hop onto, but it's actually quite interesting because one would assume it's the size, or I don't know, the talons, but I guess anything's possible because I've seen black crakes climbing on top of hippos and they don't seem perturbed at all. Obviously a black crake is quite small, but there's quite a famous dam in the Kruger National Park called Sunset Dam, and plenty of people have gotten footage of grey herons surfing on the backs of the hippos in the dam there. And that's quite interesting because it's a very large bird and obviously the hippo's not bothered at all. So I don't actually think they're too bothered. of course I was being dramatic by saying eagle. Obviously the talons etc. would make the difference, but I think the hippos are quite actually tolerant. I don't think they're too bothered. But yeah, certainly an interesting topic. I wonder how researched it has been. Anyway, camera's struggling a bit, and I think our hippo's going under. We're gonna hop back to El Doño. It's very funny, those elephant bulls are still here. Obviously it does take quite a bit of water, so they are milling around, but a bit ironic that they've spent so much time. It does seem like the bull with the larger tusks has now managed to squeeze in for a turn there by the freshwater inlet, which was earlier being dominated. Of course the giraffes are also patiently waiting for their chance. They won't get too close with all the elephants kind of dominating the waterhole as they currently are. Julia, you say they've been drinking all morning. They certainly have. And you'd like to know how much water do elephants need? And I assume you mean on a daily basis. But an adult elephant can drink anywhere from about 100 to 200 liters of water a day. And of course, this can sometimes even be more in very hot conditions, as they obviously as the body uses more water. But yeah, it makes sense. And if you think about it, it's massive animals living in very warm environments, and they don't sweat like we do, but they still need huge amounts of water. And it's not just for hydration, but it's also to help regulate their body temperature. But yeah, I think when elephants settle into the waterhole, they're not just having a relaxed sip, they're busy filling up the tank. And I think this waterhole at El Doño is a good example. There's been quite a bit of elephant activity. It's quite noticeable how the level drops, even when the zebra come past. If they also get stuck in, the water level drops significantly, and it's quite a challenge for the inlet pipe to compete with the outflow of water. Wildlife lady, I agree with you completely. It's fantastic just watching the elephants here at Aldornia. I must say we've actually been quite spoiled today with a lot of wonderful and idyllic elephant sightings or moments. And it's quite funny, this bull is scratching an itch on the back of his ear against the other bull's forehead. And that's how it looks to me. It seems relatively friendly, and his associate or friend doesn't seem to mind. Quite entertaining. It's quite amazing to see elephant bulls do seem to have quite strong bonds with each other or certain individuals. I think that's a better way of saying that. LEPR, you're saying it doesn't seem like the giraffe dared to come closer. That's a bit sad. Yeah, it's just unfortunately the way it works here at the waterhole. Might is right, but with a bit of patience they will get their turn. I'm sure a lot of people have seen that footage. It was quite intense when that one elephant actually gored or tusked the giraffe and actually injured it quite seriously. So just the way it goes. I think these giraffes unfortunately have learned to develop very good patience. But normally once, I know when we do the later shows in winter, when the elephants do leave, it's as if everything just dive bombs onto the waterhole, so they won't be here forever, but yeah, just a bit more waiting. Jenny, I do agree, it's quite amazing the size of their trunks, etc. It's quite comical that they're all taking turns drinking from the inlet. Some other times it seems like they dominate or don't really care to share, but these three guys seem to be quite happy to take turns. It's quite comical. Well, I'm going to leave these old guys to finish off their drink. We're going to pop by Mena Quena as we finish off the show. And there's a couple of zebras that have come down to drink. Quite a few zebras now slowly trickling down, and so they have to exercise a bit of caution with deeper water. I'm sure there's more than enough crocodile activity. Wildlife Lady, thanks for joining the show. Sure, we'll see you next time. Glad you enjoyed it. Thanks again for everyone joining today's show. I hope it was enjoyable. I think we had some great elephant moments. I hope everyone has a great week further ahead and enjoys this afternoon's drive. Thanks again, everyone.